In this session, we will be talking about situation of a settlement. Earlier, we did talk about site of a settlement. So in this session, we will be talking about what is situation and what are the different kinds of situation of settlements. When we talk about situation, we just should remember what we talked earlier about the concept of site, where I told you that site is the precise piece of ground, is that piece of ground over which the settlement is located. While when we talk about situation, so we are talking about situation in relation to the surrounding features. So when we look at site, so how that site of a settlement is related with the surrounding features is what I will talk about the concept of situation of a settlement. So suppose there are mountains surrounded by, or there is a river flowing by, or there is a road along which the settlement is located. Now all these features are the features which is just nearby or surrounded by the particular settlement or the site of a settlement. So we call it as a situation. So situation basically indicates a greater regional framework, a greater areal framework within which the settlement finds itself. So it talks about a broader area, a broader region in which that particular settlement is situated. So that is what situation of settlement means. And for that, we may take a reference of natural surroundings or resource areas or transportation routes, etc., so that we can find out what are different kinds of situation. Now, situations are of multiple kinds. There are different varieties of situations of settlement. However, we are going to deal with three basic situations in this session. The first one is called as the linear situation. As the name itself suggests, that here the situation is along a feature. Here a site of a settlement is located near the feature which is of linear nature or a linear shape. And most of the linear feature, when we say predominantly, are connected with transport lines. So it can be road or a railway which is running straight or in a linear form, and the settlement is sited very close by. So that nearby road or a railway becomes a part of situation of that particular settlement. So all those settlements develop along the lines of communication, along the trade routes, along the transport lines, are basically the settlements having a linear situations. Now, such sites or such settlements which are situated with reference to the lines of communication or transport lines usually you have a different kind of specific kind of activities that are related to halting of vehicles, because vehicles will be passing by over that road, and so they will halt at a particular settlement or for fueling purpose. That halt may be. So such settlements which we usually refer to as the caravanserais have a typical linear situation. Similarly, places where more than one transport route converge. So if you find there are two transport lines, I mean there are two roads, for example, which are converging each other. So that particular point where the two roads are converging becomes the very significant point of a location of a settlement. So that site of a settlement is surrounded by two transport routes that are converging each other. So that becomes a part of the situation of that settlement. And such settlements, then we call them as transshipment points or convergence points, because they have an advantage of two, not one, but two transport routes, or let us say more than one. Now, such settlements having a linear situation located particularly along a road transport or a railway transport, they have specific functions, such as such settlements have warehouse facility, fueling stations or petrol pumps, or the labor available at that particular point. and therefore specific functions are associated with specific situations. Such situations, as just now I was mentioning, it may include a river crossing, it may include a mountain crossing, it may be a port, because even a coastline, if the coastline also appears very linear, very straight, and a settlement is sited nearby, then that also becomes a case of a linear situation. Let us see some few images taken from the net. So this image shows a very typical linear situation. So you can see a road passing through, and on both the sides the settlement is developed. So it gets a, a shape of a linear shape because it is located along on both sides of the main road. So this is, from situation point of view, this becomes a linear situation. This is one more case of a linear situation where again you can find a bank of a river, or it can be a coastline also, and but also we can see a parallel road running, and along the parallel roads or between the coastline and the road we find that the settlements are located. So this is also an interesting case of a linear situation. Another situation, second kind of a situation, is called as frontier situation. Now, what do you mean by frontier? Now, frontier basically means that when one type of region is changing to another type of region, so in between there is a frontier. So, for example, there is a hilly area, or there is a hill or a mountain, and at the foothill area we find the plain begins. For example, we'll try to see in this image. Okay, so you can see that this mountain slope, and just where this mountain slope ends, no, we find this is the point where it ends, and we find that there is a plain area. So there are two physical regions in this particular image. One is the mountainous region, mountainous areas, and other is the plain region. So when you change from a mountainous terrain to a plain terrain or a flat terrain, the area in between is called as frontier. It is a transition zone between two different kinds of regions. Now there can be different different kinds of frontiers, right? For example, frontiers can be between two physical regions. So there is a mountain and a river plain, as just now I spoke about. Or there can be two economic regions. Suppose there are two industrial regions. So the area between the two industrial regions can be considered as a frontier. And if a settlement is located at in such situation, we call them that the settlement has a frontier situation. So whenever a settlement is located between two areas, two regions having different characteristics. So a settlement located where a mountain is on one side and the river plain is on the other side, and the settlement is located in between, then or that frontier area, then we call that settlement as a settlement having a frontier zone. Similarly, frontiers also can be found between two administrative regions. So between two states, between two countries. So along a boundary, a state boundary or an international boundary, along the boundary, both the sides, we have a region which we call as the frontier region. It's a transition region where one region ends and the other region begins. So there are different kinds of situations. Now these situations have unique advantages, because if a settlement is located in between the two, then settlement is located actually at the point where the exchange between these two regions is taking place or is possible. For example, a frontier settlement located between two physical regions, such as a mountain and a river plain, then that settlement has an access to mountainous region as well as the river plain. So two completely different kinds of resources are accessible to such places. So there is an advantage of accessibility from different lands or from different regions. Now, because of this accessibility to different resources and a very unique location between two different kinds of regions, such frontier situations always lead to development of trading centers. So it may include a mountain lowland contact, or a marshy or a wet and dry land contact, or a desert and a grassland contact. At one point, the desert converts into a grassland. So there is a area of transition where frontier settlement develops, or a land and sea contact, or a beach. So where again settlements can be cited. So all these are examples of frontier situations. Traditionally, frontier situations also had been the locations of capitals of a country or of a region, because these are very strategic kind of situations. So from political geographical point of view, frontier situations are extremely important. Let's see a few photographs. Now here you can see two kinds of areas or regions. One is, you can see here a plantation, or let us say a forest, right? And on the other side, you can see a grassland. And this particular settlement, this particular house is located between the two, or where one region, one land, or one area with a forest ends and another area with a grassland begins. So at this junction, we find this particular house is located. So this house has a frontier situation. This one again we have seen. So this huge settlement that we can see is located where at the junction of, or at the contact point of, a hill or a mountain and a plain. So this is also a frontier situation. This is one more. So this is the area where we find that a desert is gradually converting into a bushland, right? And so at such contact point, again, a settlement is located. So again, an example of frontier situation. This is an image of a village on a boundary of India and Pakistan. So there are a number of such villages which are located very close to the border in the areas where which are the frontiers between two countries. So such villages or such settlements are called as frontier settlements or frontier situations. Another situation and third kind of situation is called as central situation. So here we are talking about the centrality of that situation. And here the centrality, we are not talking about in terms of geographical centrality, but we are talking about centrality from the point of view of connectivity and accessibility. So central situations are situations where towns are easily reached from all directions. So settlement is connected from all directions, not only from all directions, but also from multiple means of transport, right? And usually urban settlements enjoy this kind of a situation or a central situation. Here centrality refers to an advantage that a settlement has because of its much better connectivity and subsequent accessibility. Mumbai, for example, is a good example, is a good case in case of central situation, because Mumbai is accessible and it is connected by different means of transport. It is connected by road, it is connected by railway, it is connected by air transport, also by water transport. So you can reach this city from multiple directions and by using multiple mode of transport. And therefore, as far as the transport space or transport network is concerned, such settlements becomes the central situations because of the in terms of transport network. So these are the situations are at the center of the areas with similar activities and products. These are the points of large number of routes converging or radiating in all direction. And because that settlement has much better accessibility or rather much better connectivity with the surrounding region, such settlements or such situations have a greater influence over the surrounding region. So such situations develop considerably expansive or a wider hinterlands. No? So central situations are important. Settlements at the center of the broad agricultural areas, for example. So if there is a huge agricultural region and there is a settlement in that agricultural region, having better connections from road and other means of transport, so that settlement is bound to develop as an agricultural trading center, right? Because it has a better advantage of good, better degree of, higher degree of connectivity. These are just few examples. So where again you can see that there are two roads, two transport lines converging each other, and a settlement is located at that point of convergence, right? While this is another one. So here you can see that a settlement is not connected just by one road, but it is connected by multiple roads. So you can enter into the settlement from different directions and by using different means of transport. In this image, there are no different means, it's only road. But still, whenever, as I gave you the example of Mumbai, so such are much has a are so better examples of a central situation. So that's all for this session. So we talked, there are many other kinds of situations also, such as the break of the bulk point, or the port of call situations, the gap point situations, etc. But there are three kinds of basic situations that we talked in this session: linear, frontier, and central. So what I spoke about in this session, so I said that site and situation are related to each other. Site is mainly connected with the actual piece of ground over which the settlement is located. While when we talk about situation, we are talking about how that site is related with the surrounding feature. And accordingly, we call it as a situation. And we have seen three kinds of situation: the linear situation, where the transport or where the settlements are situated along a transport line, or we have seen frontier situations, where a settlement is located at the contact point or the contact zone between two different regions, physical regions, economic regions, or political regions. And the third one we talked about was central situation, where a settlement enjoys an advantage of very high degree of connectivity. So I hope you understood the fundamentals of what is situation and three basic kinds of situation. If you have any query, then you can very much get in connected with me. Thanks a lot.